We're here with Sam Chambers, who's a member of Cohort 21 and is now a registered accredited teacher for vocal process. Hello, Sam.
Hurrah!
Hello.
We've got lots of questions to ask you, but the first thing is, what's your background, Sam? How did you get to be in Cohort 21?
I mean, this is a long story. Do you really want to go there?
Well, tell us how you first started singing and what you were singing, and maybe a bit about your training.
Okay, well, I had a bit of a long-winded journey to becoming a singing teacher. It wasn't a straightforward journey. I started playing the organ when I was 8, which I know is very long-winded, going right back, but I wasn't a singer, and I never had a singing lesson until I was 19, I don't think.
Oh.
So I played the organ, and my dad was quite strict about practicing, so I had to practice every day. And it was just the electric organ, like you get in your living room. My dad was a bit of an amateur enthusiast. So he had lots of music, bumper books of music on the shelf, and he added to it regularly. And he always kept me updated with music to play from. So I had these lessons for years, and gradually I started to sing along at the organ. My mum used to be a nice little singer, and she'd come and sit next to me and we'd sing together. And that was my introduction into singing. I know I used to sing all the time. Like I remember running around the kitchen table when my teeth came in, singing about the tooth song. What is it now? All I want for Christmas is me tooth.
Yep.
Things like that, memories like that, singing all the time at home. But I was an organist and a cellist initially, and when I got to 15, I think it was, my mum and dad took me for a meal for their anniversary in a country pub in the middle of nowhere, and they finally got me to get up and play the organ. I was so shy, they couldn't get me to do that, and I got up and played because nobody was in the pub. So I got up and played the organ, and my mum came and sat next to me, and we sang a bit, just played whatever was to hand. I was quite good by now because I'd had to practice daily, and I was very used to a lot of different music because these bumper books had all different types of music in, like war tunes, show tunes, all sorts, bit of classical. And the landlord offered me a job playing the organ at the weekends.
Nice.
And because he'd heard me sing, he got me to sing when I played the organ at the weekends. So I was a pub organist for years, and I just sang, with that really. So that was how I got into singing. Never had a lesson, but I could always.
I didn't know that about
We
you
did.
at
We
all.
didn't.
No.
No, we knew you hadn't had lessons
I love
until you
that.
were older, and you'd sort of sung naturally. But that whole journey, that's amazing. And of course, this is why, as you know, we've had this conversation about how good you are on style, what an instinctive grasp you have on style. And now I know why, because
now I know why as well. And I didn't realize it until you guys picked up on that. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I didn't know, but it was all those years of being grounded in a variety, country, all different types of music, and just I didn't really listen to the originals, much. When we went anywhere in the car, me and my mum always had music on. It was always Tina Turner, Cher, that sort of thing. Jazz, Ella Fitzgerald. Loved jazz. It wasn't something that I consciously listened to. It was just on a lot, and I must have picked it up. And when I played, I went on what I played, and I could sight read really well, and I just felt how the song was meant to sound, and so I adapted the way I sang according to how it felt it should sound.
That's so interesting. So because you had the music under your fingers and the harmony and the phrasing, that you worked out how it should sound. That's really fascinating to go in from there.
There's something else as well, which is we have a lot of people who come to us, not just on the accreditation program, but just who come to us in general, who are instrumentalists and have been instrumentalists like when they were kids. I love that. I love that mentality because you've sort of got a grasp of music from an instrument, which is very different from having a grasp of music as a singer.
Oh, I mean, I never even thought of myself as a singer. You know, I was a cellist and a recorder player and an organist, and that was me. And I did a little bit of church organ for a year. And as I got older and I started to think, well, I need to go on and train in this, electronic organ wasn't a thing. So I had to adapt and I had to change. And rather than going on to church organ or piano, I chose the singing. Singing suddenly became my instrument. And I think the first lesson I had was when I think it was 18 or 19. It was a little bit later, and I was doing my A-levels. And there was a heartbreak story which totally changed the direction of my life, you know, and suddenly I was online to go to university and I needed an instrument. And the piano teacher on my A-level music course got me through my grade 8 singing so that I could go to university. And that was the first, she wasn't even a singing teacher. That was the first experience I had of using my voice in that way, in that professional way.
Wow, thank you to that teacher. I mean, isn't it wonderful when you have someone like that who really believes in you?
Oh yeah, I mean, she was wonderful. They just thought of me as a singer, weirdly, even though that hadn't been my first instrument. I just could sing. Sometimes when you're a teacher, it's really hard to kind of get back to what it must feel like for somebody who doesn't have that. Because I've not experienced it myself, I've always just been able to just sing.
You always had it.
I think that's very interesting. That's interesting as well, because, you know, I think that people, and you can have more than one, but I think people have a something that they communicate through. And it's a real, you know, it's like you're so clearly a singer because you communicate through song. Now, interestingly, I haven't heard you play the organ, so I don't know whether you do the same thing. But it's really interesting. I sing, but I communicate through the piano.
Yes.
So, you know, you hear me play and you go, oh yeah, he's a pianist.
Yeah.
And I think it's very honest of you to say, sometimes it's hard to relate to people who can't sing because you grew up singing.
Yep.
And even though you didn't see yourself as a singer, it felt so natural and easy to you. And I think that's an issue that many professional singers might have when they start working as teachers.